What's up, everybody? Jimmy, Faluke, and Frank are back. Frank, you enjoying yourself?
Yes, sir, as always.
There we go. Now, I have a confession to make. I stopped watching Total Nonstop Action when Jeff Hardy wrestled his match with Sting and he came out high. So I haven't watched TNA in many years. But now the report has come out that Spike TV pulled the plug. They're done with them. Please tell me what's been going on, because all I've heard is rumors. You have the floor, Frank.
I much like everybody else. I gave them so many chances. I would try and tune in on Thursdays and watch the show, and it's just after 10-15 minutes, it's just unbearable to watch. Yeah, really. I'm not trying. I wish it wouldn't be, but they just don't know how to run the show. They give everybody a mic. They can make everybody go throw it on and on and on. Not everybody can cut a promo, and they just give everybody a chance to cut a 10-minute long promo, and it's just painful.
They're the opposite of WWE. WWE doesn't give good talent a chance to talk, and TNA gives bad talent a chance to talk. Can we agree on that?
Well, no, I don't. It's not. They give everybody a chance to talk, and it's really hard to pull off a promo, let alone they keep throwing it on and on and on for over 5 minutes, and it's like.
I think the oversaturation of delusional Dixie doesn't help them either.
Say it again.
I said I think oversaturating the show with delusional Dixie Carter doesn't help them.
They just don't know how to run a show, and I read today that the decision was made because of Vince Russo. He's still hired by TNA, so he might have killed another company.
Well, see, the thing is, I'm not really all that convinced that, the blame should just be laid at the door of Vince Russo. I mean, let's also be honest about WCW. The reason WCW went over was because of the merger with Time Warner, and they just didn't want to be part of the wrestling business anymore. It wasn't the fault of Eric Bischoff solely, it wasn't the fault of Hulk Hogan solely for playing politics, and it wasn't the fault of Vince Russo solely. It was because it was a business. There was a merger, and the people in charge of that business said, we don't want to be involved with wrestling anymore. That was why WCW went under.
And what also was the contracts they gave out. Overpaid.
They overpaid the talent way too much, and
they did the same thing. They kept bringing in WWE cast-offs, signing up for so much money, and getting little results in return. They would bring in whoever, and it would make a little difference in the ratings.
Well, we could talk about WCW and how it failed for hours, but we ain't got that much time. There's not enough time in the evening to talk about that. But I feel bad for TNA, and I feel bad for the business in general, because the business always thrived when there was more than one company doing good business. And I just don't see that happening with TNA. I've been saying for years that TNA is a sinking ship. Finally, Hulk Hogan and Sting got their asses out of there. The only ones I would love to see leave TNA and get the hell out of there are the Dudleys and Kurt Angle. I'd love to see the Dudleys get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I would love to see Kurt Angle get back into shape and get in that ring and have an RVD or Chris Jericho schedule. I think he can handle that, no problem.
Yeah, that's maybe at best what'll happen, but I hope these TNA guys don't think they're coming to WWE. I think WWE has no interest in any of them.
No, none whatsoever. It'll create buzz for 1 or 2 nights, and then it'll be gone.
Yeah, I think their best bet is
the only guy I will say in TNA that I did think that should have at least had one shot in WWE had they taken the opportunity was Bobby Roode, James Storm, and Samoa Joe. I love all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, but
especially Bobby Roode. He's very talented, Bobby Roode.
Yeah, he is, but once you get into WWE, that's the major leagues. It's a whole different story,
Oh, absolutely. So now TNA is without a home. They only have a few months to get themselves a new one, and it's not looking good for them. I wish them the best, but let's face it, sometimes their best isn't even that good.
It's horrible. They get no ratings. Their show, nobody shows up to their shows. It's just
my friend has a saying about TNA. He calls them TNA. There's no audience.
Yeah, it's bad, and their pay-per-views, you don't even know when they're on. I mean, that's their only bright spot of their pay-per-view. They actually do pull off some decent pay-per-views, but
nobody's watching them because they don't promote them properly.
They don't promote them, and then who's going to pay money for them, you know?
Nah, you won't catch me dead paying $40 for a TNA pay-per-view, but now that we got that out of the way, the WWE Network, there's going to be a conference call this Thursday on how many subscriptions they have. And the rumor's going around that a few dozen people are going to be getting fired this week. Now, WWE's been doing some serious cuts because they're looking to salvage, $20 million due to this network thing. And no one really knows how payoffs are being dealt with now that the network is being implemented. I mean, WrestleMania payoffs and pay-per-view payoffs, that was one of the keys that, in that Ariel Helwani interview that CM Punk turned around and said that one of the reasons he's not that happy was because he didn't know how this new network was going to affect their payoffs. Right. And apparently they still don't know, and it's the end of July. I mean, I think the only ones that really know how this is going to be working is Vince and his, his son-in-law and his daughter. And, the network hasn't done nearly as well as they thought it would. And why do you think that is, Frank?
Well, we both have the network, and we're, I guess, in the group of hardcore fans, and that's who pretty much subscribes to the network. But, I mean, I hardly ever watch it. I mean,
I watch it at least once a day, I'm not going to lie. I watch it at least once a day to pick out a classic match that I haven't seen in a while, and I'll watch it. Like, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I watched Ricky Steamboat versus Ravishing Rick Rude in the 30-minute Iron Man match from Beach Blast, and I have to say, I remember watching a lot of these old WCW and WWF pay-per-views with my dad, and, my dad has it on his PlayStation downstairs, and there are times I'll come home and he'll be watching old Survivor Series or the old Starcades, and, he says, my father's quote to me was, "I love having this at the tip of my fingers."
Yeah, it's a library, and
that's the predominant reason.
There's like hardcore fans.
That's the predominant reason I have it, is because of the video library and the classic content. I'm hoping that eventually they add all the Saturday night main events. I hope they add all the Hall of Fame ceremonies. That's something I'm looking for, because I'd love to watch the Hall of Fames in their entirety. Because the night after WrestleMania 30, I packed away all my WrestleMania DVDs and all my pay-per-views. Mostly I packed away the WrestleMania DVDs because I couldn't look at my WrestleMania collection anymore, knowing the streak was dead. So I packed away a lot of them, and what annoyed me was I'm like, oh crap, all the Hall of Fame ceremonies are on there, and I'll tell you something. Maybe I'm just old school, but I love hearing these road stories about, I love hearing these stories about how, from Ric Flair, about how Harley Race would start fights, or how Roddy Piper would get the guys kicked out of hotels, and all these classic road stories.
The one show I do watch a lot is the Legends of Wrestling.
Yes, so do I. I love those roundtables.
I think they should have more of them. I don't understand why they don't. It probably don't cost too much to make. And,
not at all. The guys sit around the table and talk about a subject, and there's plenty of subjects they could talk about. There's endless subjects in wrestling they could talk about. They could do a whole show just on how the WWE came to be. They could talk about the McMahon family just for one whole show. There's so many things.
The top of the WWE Network's trying to focus on like these reality shows and MTV style countdowns.
They're trying to be real television, and that's why it's not working, because they're wrestling. They're wrestling.
Yeah, wrestling fans like WWE because it's an alternative from what we see on TV.
Exactly. So when they try to act like the regular television, it ends up hurting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Try telling that.
Counterculture,
Try telling that to Kevin Dunn, because that's another thing that bothers me. You don't even hear the word wrestling anymore on WWE programming, and usually when you do hear it, John Cena says it, and then he looks at the Titantron and apologizes for saying it. I don't understand why that's so.
It's a dirty word. It's because now that they're
wrestling is the very reason that all the guys that pack up their shit and go around the world and have the houses they have and have the $1 million accounts that they have is because of the wrestling business. And I have a DVD that where Jim Cornette rebooks The Invasion, and I remember on one of those one of those chapters, he turns around and he says that, trying to explain Vince McMahon drives him nuts, and he says that, I know that, this is a quote from Cornette, I know that Vince was always ashamed to be in the wrestling business. At first he called it sports entertainment just to con the advertisers, but then he started feeding it to the wrestlers, and now that they're all fed that. Do you think that at the end of the day that was a bad move by Vince to show his disgust for the wrestling business and try to make it more of a regular TV show? Because let's say...
I know what you're talking about. Cornette says at the end of the day, he's running a wrestling promotion.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, who can argue with Vince McMahon? Look where he's taking it. But you have to always stick to your roots.
Absolutely. You got to dance with what you have to go. You have to go what brings you to the dance. And let's be very honest, Frank. Do any of us ever say, "Hey, let's go get sports entertainment tickets," or "Hey, let's watch the sports entertainment tonight"? No, we're going to say we're going to watch wrestling tonight. At its
core, everybody tunes in for the action in the ring.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
The drama. It's telling the story in the ring, and that's it. And listen, you could add in other things to make it entertaining. If you just put wrestling matches, that'll get boring. No matter how good they are, because it'll just.
Hey, listen, I got no shame in saying more than half the things I enjoy is more like theater. The whole Undertaker character that I enjoyed throughout my childhood was like a theater-like character. But the fact was, when it came down to nut cutting time and he got in the ring, he let his fists and his moves do the talking, and his character, and he let his character react the way it should react to the situations he was put in. And I enjoyed the Undertaker's character a hell of a lot more when he got into storylines with his brother Kane, when he reunited with Paul Bearer and was feuding with Steve Austin and had the Ministry. I'm not going to lie, I enjoy both wrestling and sports entertainment. I just don't like too much of either. Put it in the middle, and it works.
They go hand in hand. You have to have all these outrageous storylines and promos and segments. But it's a fine balance.
It is a fine one. Now that we got through that, there was another subject that I did want. There was another subject that I know that you wanted brought up, and I'm just retouching. Oh yes, how could I forget? During our that little gap that we didn't record our shows, we had Sting, for the first time ever, show up on WWE programming via a vignette for the new video game. Sting is now, and that's one of the reasons I wore this shirt tonight. I'm wearing my old Sting Crow WCW t-shirt, which you'll see later on when you view the show on YouTube. There's a shameless plug. Sting is now part of WWE. Frank, what do you have to say? Is it about time?
Yeah, but I just hope that it's not too late. He'll get a pop, but I just don't know how much he can offer right now at this point. What's the luster wears off of him debuting, and he'll get a big pop.
Well, Sting has made no bones about the fact, especially in the last few weeks, what he wants is simple. He wants a one-on-one match. He wants WrestleMania 31, and he wants The Undertaker. He's made no bones about it. That's what he wants.
That's great and all, but is it going to happen? Can it happen? Will it even come off good?
You want to know the truth, Frank? And I'm going to be very honest with you. This is where no one could ever accuse me of being a smark, because they only care about match quality. If The Undertaker and Sting do face each other, the match is not going to be anything special. However, and maybe I'm being selfish,
then what happened?
I don't care if the match is good or not. I'm dying to see the build-up, the promos, the moment where they're face-to-face with each other for the first time ever. I'm looking forward to seeing the dead man stare down the icon. I'm looking forward for that moment. Because wrestling is not just about the matches and the moves. It's about the moments that you never forget. Hogan dropping the leg on Savage and joining the NWO. Steve Austin stunning his boss in the ring. Vince McMahon revealing himself as the higher power. Stone Cold turning at WrestleMania 17. The moments is what makes wrestling just as great as the great quality of matches you see.
Listen, I understand that, but just fast forward. The match starts. There's going to be a huge buzz, anticipation, and you're going to have a lot of disappointed people, and it might tarnish both of these guys' legacies if they don't have a decent match.
You want to know something, though? And I had this conversation with Mike Marone, who usually joins us on these shows. Even he has said, and he's watched wrestling just as long as the both of us, he says, I think that these two will surprise us and actually have a good match.
That would be the ultimate.
If the Undertaker didn't get hurt with that concussion in that match with Lesnar, the match would have been a hell of a lot better. But the guy worked an entire match with a concussion, which, hey, I applaud the Undertaker for being able to work with a concussion, let alone take the amount of punishment that he took at the hands of Lesnar. So, the Undertaker, is at the end of his rope. I think that is.
Take into account, it's 1 year. He's 1 year older. He's a little bit more beat up. And Sting. What does Sting have left to take?
I think he's only got one match in him. I think Sting's only got that one match in him. They shouldn't waste it on Bray Wyatt. They shouldn't waste it on Triple H. Give us the match that we've wanted to see for the past 20 years, which is Sting and The Undertaker. Taker will not get that banged up because Sting was not known as a stiff guy. The worst that Sting was known for is when he puts you in the Scorpion Deathlock. That's when he cranks it. So that's the most that Taker will have to worry about. I don't see Taker taking a Scorpion Death Drop, but hey, listen, he may do it. It's that, and you want to know what? I think the only way. I'm sorry, and then I'll let you go. The only way I see them having this match is if they both retire when it's over.
Yeah, possibly. Let's say it doesn't happen. Who would Sting, if he does get in there? Who could he get in there with?
I really don't see anybody else that he could get in there with where the fans would actually care. I'm just being honest with you. I don't see him getting in the ring with anybody else that the fans would be emotionally invested and say, wow, Sting's going to wrestle this guy. Putting him in the ring with The Rock isn't going to make any sense because The Rock is way stronger, way faster, way younger. The match would make zero sense, number one. Number two, you don't want to put him in there with Triple H because Triple H, listen, Triple H don't belong wrestling Sting. He just doesn't. It's a complete mismatch. The Undertaker and Sting are from that same era. They're both cut from the same cloth. They're perfect for each other. That's why the match needs to happen. But that's in the hands of The Undertaker now. It's in The Undertaker's hands. And I don't think that Sting would continue to reference that he wants The Undertaker if it hasn't been discussed. That's just me.
It's been discussed for years.
Excuse me?
I said it's been discussed for years.
Well, I think that I'm talking about right now. If the match wasn't, being considered for the next big show that they're looking to do, I do not think that Sting would bring it up. Because at the end of the day, if he does and then it doesn't happen, it makes The Undertaker look bad because Sting's with the company. He wants the match and then it don't happen. It makes The Undertaker look like an asshole. And I don't think The Undertaker's going to do that. I do not believe for a single second that last F5 is the last move The Undertaker takes in his career. I refuse to believe that. His career ain't ending that way. No way will that happen.
Well, we'll see. We don't know how hurt he is, how much he where he has left to do it. We gotta look at it realistic.
No, I understand that. I understand we have to look at it realistically, and that The Undertaker has taken a lot of punishment in the last few years. Listen.
You know how much effort and time it takes for him to get back into shape.
The guy's already been in the gym, though. Not for nothing. Taker's already been in the gym, and every year, Frank, every year we get close to January, February, and we don't know if The Undertaker's going to be around, and then he shows up. Listen, there ain't a doubt in my mind. The match is happening. The match is happening. Now, I think that the night that The Undertaker and Sting finally go face-to-face, I'm not talking about the fight, excuse me, I think that the first time that they meet eye-to-eye, it's going to be like Rock and Hogan. It's going to be like Cena and Rock. It's going to be one of those moments that if you live to be 100, you'll never forget it, and I'm emotionally invested in that match because The Undertaker's my first favorite wrestler. Sting is my second favorite. I've been wanting them to wrestle each other for God knows how many years. I remember I used to flip back and forth to watch Sting kick the crap out of the NWO and watch The Undertaker do what he did on WWF. I think that when those two finally meet face to face, it's going to be a night you never forget, and I think that they'll deliver.
I hope you're right. I mean, I don't disagree with you that it will be like surreal.
If they do meet face to face, it'll be a moment you never forget, regardless of what happens afterwards. And that will overshadow that moment will overshadow any crappy match they end up having because it's all about the moment. That holy shit moment of those two going face to face, that will make up for any crappy match that those two have against each other.
If anybody can pull it off,
it's those two. You know? But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, Frank and I'll be back with our final segment in just a few minutes. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.